Hey guys, it's Dave again. Back again. Here's Dave's Dimension. Back again for another video. Welcome back to Dave's Dimension, the channel where insanity and chaos reigns supreme. Now, we're back again for another video today. This week, we're going to do a little bit of difference. We're going to focus all on Back to the Future today, believe it or not. I actually came across several Back to the Future items. A friend of mine is actually moving out of state, and he needed to reduce some of his collectibles for the move. So what he actually did was, he knows I'm a big Back to the Future fan. Buddy of mine named Brent Hollingsworth, awesome guy. He actually reached out and said, "Hey, I know you're a big Back to the Future fan. I have some items here," and I said, "Sure." So we're going to go through some of the items that he unloaded onto me, and also I have unboxing of a few two new items that came out recently. Now, what he did was he needed to unload some comics, and he happened to know that I had some Back to the Future comics that I had in a display on my wall that were actually damaged. So those comics cannot be salvaged. So he needed to unload a few IDW Back to the Future comic issues. And here they are. I'm gonna show you guys. Now, if you're not familiar, Back to the Future IDW was a limited run, and it touched on different aspects of the Back to the Future universe, giving a little bit more insight into Marty, into Doc, a lot of big background. So if you're a big Back to the Future fan, and you can get your hands on either the paper copies or the digital copies, you can get them on Amazon and Barnes & Noble through Kindle and their, of course, supported stores. So I highly recommend them. Plus, the art is amazing. Now, the first one is actually issue 1. Okay? Obviously, this captures everything from Back to the Future 1 right there, guys. This one, I mean, I'm not going to take this out of its sleeve. This is going to be something that I'm going to put in a frame. Well, that's what I'm going to do with the 4 comics that I happen to have here. I have issues 2, 4, and 5 right now. The only one I'm missing is 3. Now, we're going to take a look at the second one. Second one's just a nice little glimpse at the DeLorean. It's got some amazing art inside these guys. Definitely worth getting the digital copies if you can. Now, the fourth one is it's a little hits me in the feels because Back to the Future 3 was practically my favorite out of the 3. If I had to pick a favorite, it's got to be Part 3 because I love the Old West, and I love that it wrapped everything up as far as the story goes. So you got Doc, you got Marty and Jennifer, and of course you got Doc and Clara, and of course the Time Machine. That is the Time Machine they ended this series with the train. And I really love this. This is just, it's fantastic art. I mean, the stories in here, it's definitely worth getting your hands on them. Now, I know several years before, there was a comic book company called 88 Miles Per Hour that did a lot of Ghostbuster stories and a whole bunch of others. But these are probably some of my favorites. You got the Enchantment Under the Sea Dance. You know, I mean, it's got stories for all over the Back to the Future universe. I'm so glad that I got these. These are amazing, guys. I mean, the art you can see right there. I mean, they really captured the actors in there. Okay, Lorraine Baines, of course, played by Leah Thompson. You don't really get a glimpse of Crispin Glover here, but I mean, he's always going to be George McFly. And I really love this. So I have these 4, and I'm going to be putting them in a frame. Now, one of my favorite pieces ever. Now, see, I thought he had mentioned that he had the USA Today from Back to the Future. I thought it was just a flat print. Like, you know, you see some people on Etsy and a few other just doing like a flat print, and you know, you get in like an old plastic sleeve and that's it. No, this is the full-on newspaper. Back in 2015, when 2015 came around, they actually, USA Today did a special edition of their newspaper. They made it so it looked like the USA Today that was in Back to the Future 2. I mean, all the stories, all the prints and fonts on here are exactly, I mean, they get the nice little glimpse going back to the book that Marty's dad wrote. I mean, these are actual news stories. I'm actually going to take this apart so you guys can see. And it's got stories from 2016, like the actual election, but they still kept the font for the USA Today. Um, I mean, these are the actual stories. There's a lot of Back to the Future stuff in here. I mean, they have real financial stories going on here. Real stories going through the entire newspaper. I mean, it's just amazing. I mean, these were the actual stories. This is an actual newspaper. I mean, even the paper feels like a proper newspaper. I mean, we have the stories. Cubs sweep the series in 5. They have all the stories in here. It's just amazing. You even have within the life section, you got a picture of Christopher Lloyd himself, the doc. I mean, this thing, it's as far as my Back to the Future collection, which is very limited, mind you. This is probably my holy grail. Right next to, well, I mean, my Flux Pack is unofficial. It's not exactly canon, but that's one of my favorite collectibles. But I mean, this right here, I'm gonna get this framed. It was recommended that I get the UV protection. I don't know how much that would cost. Some framing companies, like for example, you can go into Joanne Fabrics. You can go into like Hobby Lobby or is that Hobby Lobby? They do custom framing, but they can do it where they have the UV protected glass, which will keep papers and documents from aging prematurely. I mean, this thing is just amazing. I mean, it's a real newspaper. It's got Marty McFly Jr. jailed. I mean, I'm blown away by this. So I got these comics. I got this today. What else could I have gotten today? Well, I got the Gigawatt, which is the Back to the Future Transformers crossover. And I said I wasn't going to get him. I didn't really have an interest in him because the official pictures that officially came out, I wasn't too psyched about him. But it's Back to the Future. A friend of mine they were doing pre-orders, and a friend of mine said, "Oh yeah, I'm going to order one. Do you want to order one with me?" I'm like, "Sure, why not? Just jump on it. Just go ahead." I'm like, I know I'm going to regret it if I don't. So here we are. Gigabyte, a transforming DeLorean. Now, those that don't know, there is currently an ongoing comic book series, which is a crossover with IDW Comics of Transformers meets Back to the Future. Okay? In fact, I think the second issue just came out. I think this week. I have to check. I read the first issue digitally on my Kindle through Amazon, and I liked it. It's very quick. I mean, these aren't majorly long issues. Okay, but let's dive into this. Excuse me, guys. I gotta get the specs out. I know. I just put my glasses on and they're already above my head. It's my vision. It kind of zooms in, zooms out. I have to get my eyes checked every 2 years. You should always get your eyes checked every 2 years. I try to do it every year, but of course, you know what happened this year, so that's not happening. So we have here, he is an Autobot, Gigawatt. Function, he is a time traveler. You're never out of time when you're a time machine. When Marty and Doc Brown need a ride through time, Gigawatt is ready to fly. And of course, you got your different languages for the text right there. I know that really doesn't zoom in, show you guys. It gets blurred if I do close up. I apologize. Now, this is to celebrate and commemorate the 35th anniversary of Back to the Future. Now, last year, Transformers, Hasbro, they did a Ectotron. He's actually right up there, right next to my Lego Ecto 1 Afterlife Edition, under the Ecto 1 and 1A license plates up there. So Gigawatt is going to be, well, I'm going to reposition Ectotron, so these two are going to be hanging out because you had the 35th anniversary of Ghostbusters last year, and we have the 35th anniversary of Back to the Future this year. I do like the art here. I wish the box would have been a little bit more, I don't know, a little bit more larger, but that's neither here nor there. You guys know I'm an out of box collector. I'm not going to be saving this box. And who knows, I may plan on getting another Ectotron because I'm waiting for, well, not that I'm waiting. There's a company called Toy Hacks. They do a lot of aftermarket decals. Or if you need replacement decals for Transformers, G.I. Joe, Power Rangers, if you guys watch the channel, you've heard me talk about them before. Toyhacks.com. I believe they're Canadian based. I could be wrong. Don't quote me on that. But they are known for doing all kinds of insane decals. In fact, Ectotron is not stock Ectotron. There was a kind of a they released a set of stickers, decals for him, and I'll throw that in the link below, guys, so you can see what I'm talking about. Basically, they give you an option where you can just have him as a regular Ghostbusters 1, or you could actually do it up in Ghostbusters 2 style. So they give you options. You don't have to use their labels. They give a lot of recommendations. It's just a really good, it's a good company. I mean, they come out with some amazing things, whether you're talking G1 Transformers or the more recent versions like Titan's Return. Now, of course, the War for Cybertron. They have all kinds of stuff in there. So, let's open up this bad boy. So, we get a nice little, this is actually a little bit of a departure for them. Usually they do like a white and purple kind of print. This is a nice white, black, and blue. But they got some nice graphic art on there. This itself might be worth throwing into the one of my displays. Of course, they give you the instructions. They don't give you worded instructions. They just give you picture instructions here. That's just what Transformers has been doing for a number of years now. And plus, also saves them on having to print these instructions in multiple languages. That's just an easier way for them to do. Now, we're going to pull him out. See what else we have here. Just your legal paperwork, rigmarole. And of course, on the inside, inside the box itself, I'm going to pull this out so you guys can see. There's some nice art showing a stock DeLorean. So that's kind of nice that they kind of threw that in there. They make a reference to the flux capacitor, even though they show a stock DeLorean, which that in itself doesn't make a whole lot of sense. Now, you heard me say that I'm probably looking into getting multiple Ectos, or not Ectos, but Gigawatts, the DeLorean, because I would love to see Toy Hacks, if you're watching this somehow, I would love to see you guys do decal sets, so a person like me who's a big Back to the Future fan could have multiple versions. Maybe, obviously this is Back to the Future 1, maybe we can get Back to the Future 2 decals, maybe with a little piece to replace the, oh, there you have a piece, in fact. Oh, I'll go over that in a second. Or maybe a variation to make it look like, have a little, the hood circuits for the Back to the Future 3 is what I'm hoping for. So, what do we have here? We have the DeLorean in all of its glory. Now, they threw some tints on here, which is great and all, but you can still kind of see the inside parts. I mean, if you really look close enough, you can kind of see some of the internal skeletal parts right there. The back part, you get a lot of coloring, cables and wiring. It's not screen accurate, no it's not, but it's pretty close. Now, one thing I'm not, this is just a personal nitpick here, I'm not crazy that the flux bar, that's what this front part and the side panels are called here. This is called the flux bar, which meets up at the top part where usually this is where the energy is blasting out that breaks the time barrier so that the DeLorean can travel through time. They made it black, I get it. It's just to kind of simplify everything. That's why they did that. Would I like something a little bit more screen accurate? Yes. If I had the time, I can definitely tape up around here and I can take some paint and do it up myself. I mean, that's something you can do. it's not that hard to run some little painter's tape around the sides here. Maybe paint it like a faint blue to give it that effect, or even the proper silver effect. We'll see what happens. I think the silver would kind of clash with the front part of the grill right in front of the hood there. Um, but all in all, it's pretty good. I get that they couldn't do the the DMC, DeLorean Motor Company decal for copyrights. I get that. Now, what's great is the gull wing doors actually open up. Now, of course, you don't see seats in there. You see little parts of Gigawatt himself, but that's kind of nice that they kind of threw that out there. Okay, I get that that's probably just coincidence as part of the function of the car. Now, as far as the car itself, the wheels do move. We do have moving wheels. The wheels are pretty accurate. The hub's right there. Now, of course, underneath the car, you see Gigawatt and you see a flux capacitor, which is part of his chest right there. So, we get that. Now, he gets a nice little kind of Optimus Prime-esque blaster. I would have liked this maybe in a different color, add some contrast. But, I mean, this is something that, again, this is easily done by yourself. You know, take some spray, change it whatever color you want. You can, I mean, we can make this black so it looks more like a prime cannon. That's something you could do. We could do this any number of colors that you want, guys. I mean, one thought is even maybe taping some of these and making it multicolors. That's something you could do. And when I was speaking before, and I said, oh, they did include it. They included a Mr. Fusion. So you can have a version where it's just him right there, or throw on Mr. Fusion, and you got Back to the Future 2 right there. Now, there is another accessory. They have the hook from that Marty uses in 1955 to harness the electricity from the bolt of lightning that strikes the clock tower, so that we can go back to the future. Now, this is a very soft, well, not very soft, but it's a soft plastic that is very malleable, which means it's very bendable. Okay, so this can be bent different ways. It is you can see it's kind of a bendy, wibbly wobbly. It's a bit timey-wimey. Again, this is not exactly screen accurate. It was more of a aluminum and copper kind of look to the original one. That's something that can be easily modified yourself. You have a little peg here so that this will fit right into the car. Now there's a little notch here, a little nub, and that I believe is for his vehicle mode, because in the picture you actually see him kind of like he's hanging it right on his arm. So that's a nice little way. I guess it's an additional weapon that you can have right there. So we will see. Now, Mr. Fusion does come right off very easily. If this is something you want to keep on, I guess you can't, because these have a little partition right here, so they split right down the middle. So it's meant to come out. So let's just do vehicle mode. We're going to put the rod, which is supposed to take the energy. So there we are. Back to the Future 1. He's getting struck by lightning. Back into 1985. So, of course, now we have the Mr. Fusion. There we go. And what's nice is he's got the out-of-time license plate, so he's got the original license plate. There's no decals in here, but Toy Hacks, if you're watching this, if you can make a decal to replace that license plate with maybe the one from Part 2 and Part 3, that would be really great, guys. I would love that. And I think I just lost the... No, it's right here. Here we go. I'm losing my mind, guys, today. So, yeah, this comes right off very loose. I might suggest maybe a little bit of a I mean, I know this won't be able to stay on permanently, but if they could have made that plastic a little bit more of a tighter fit, um, that would be great. But of course, you're going to be transforming him, so let's get into this. Um, I'm sure I can figure it out without it, but I'm going to do it regardless. So they have you start off with it being upside down. So let's just go into it. I'm going to throw the instructions right there on my desk on my keyboard. So we're going to start off with okay, looks like the leg panels. So they're going to work a lot like Ectotron's leg panels. You got to open up those panels first before his legs can open up. So let's just get right into it. So we're going to open him up just like that. Now the rear exhausts go right into his legs there. Okay, so we're going to open this up. See, his actual foot comes right out. Then we're going to close that panel that we opened up originally. Again, open up. And he's got almost like Lego-like bottoms for his feet. Or they could be the little thrusters so he can fly, you know, a hover mode, so to speak. So we got that. And now we're going to open up the gull wing doors. Oh, guys, little quality control. This came right off. Okay, and it can snap right back on, guys. So if that happens, don't freak out. It will just snap right back into place just like that, and it's back on. See? So don't freak out if that happens. Sometimes these pieces of plastic are so malleable. We're going to rotate his legs now. Like with a lot of classic Transformers, you think it's going backwards. It's not. You just have to rotate the body. Okay? So now, I actually skipped some of the steps, but who needs instructions? Where we're going, we don't need instructions. So now, let's see. We have his legs formed. Now his arms are actually going to come out from the bottom here. Rotate. Pretty simple. Pretty basic. If you've ever transformed a Transformer, you're going to be very familiar with many of these functions here, okay? Especially if you're familiar with some of the more recent Autobot transforms. Also, guys, these wheels, they do turn in, so you can have the hover mode there, okay? Once we have that, see here. Moving on to the back side here. Moving on up. Now on the shoulder, on the back of the shoulders, there's a little piece that actually swivels around. Oops, almost dropped him. We don't want that. And that just goes around to the back of his shoulders. That's what I'm talking about. A little swivel piece right here, guys. That just kind of swivels back on the back side of his shoulder. Now, so far the body is very reminiscent. Some of the joints, the arms and the legs, are very reminiscent of past Transformers. I'm referring to like Jazz, Prowl, and a few others. Okay? So if you're familiar with those guys, that's pretty much a lot of what I'm looking at here. Now I'm just taking a look at how we're going to... There's a time circuit flux capacitor part that I'm trying to figure out exactly how do we do this. It's supposed to come right out. There we go. Now this panel might be a little hard, so just kind of nudge it with your thumb and you'll see what I mean. It's a little tight with the way his head is right here. It's a little tight, if you guys can see that. It's a little tight, so you kind of have to be careful. We got to make sure that that's rotated around. And he'll snap into place. He's not terribly large, guys. And his head just kind of pokes out like a turtle. He just kind of like pops out. It'd be great if his head came out a little bit higher, but it is what it is. And he's got a very much of a Doc Brown look in the face, guys. You know, like the large eyes, Christopher Lloyd's large eyes kind of popping out. It's got very much a Doc Brown look to him. That might be something that plays out in the comics. We will definitely see. Now, the wheels you can pop them out like that, or just keep them on the sides. I actually think having them out a little bit is kind of a cool look. I mean, it's something you could do. You don't have to. Now he's got little pegs on the side, very much like what they're doing with with the Siege and the War on Cybertron. So technically speaking, his gun, his blaster, can actually hang right on his shoulder here, almost like a Megatron type deal. Or here we go. That's more of a Megatron kind of look for an Autobot. Kind of crazy, right? That's definitely one way you could do it. The gun also, of course, fits in his hand. But all in all, it's not bad. I mean, like I said, he's not big. I'm actually going to grab Ectotron for size comparison so you guys can see yourselves, okay? Now here's Ectotron. You heard me talking about the decals. So he's got the caution striping all over the place. The hazard striping, replacement decals that went all over his body. So he's got a Ghostbusters 2 look. So here is Ectotron. Here's Gigawatt. I mean, this is almost a Bumblebee size to a regular Transformer. You guys can see the size comparison right there. So that in itself is pretty out there. Now you heard me say that the lightning rod goes on, so it goes on like that. I guess you could use it as a gladiatorial type weapon. So he's got the hook and he's got the blaster. I mean, they have these pegs on the Transformers now so they can interchange their weapons and armor. It is something that they do. So here he is. He's got his gull wing doors open. They can close a little bit, but I mean, really, what's the need? You want to have plenty of clearance for posing your arms. And there is Gigawatt. Yeah, they call him Gigawatts. I don't know if that's supposed to be like, if there's supposed to be different, call him Gig for short. I don't know. I mean, if you're going to read the comic book for him, I would definitely recommend doing the comic book for Ghostbusters that came out last year, which you can still get on digital format. And I'm sure if you hit up your local comic book shops, you'll be able to get the paper copies of this. But, I mean, I'm really shocked at the size comparison. I am, but I'm not. Because, I mean, also you got to compare the size of a DeLorean with the size of a 59 Cadillac ambulance. Big differences right there, guys. But all in all, this is not bad. A lot of the look of it, I know that the DeLorean is a polished steel. But if you really, I mean, I know this is not coming across very well here on camera. But when you look at this, you can actually see this looks like a brushed metal, or like kind of like where you'll see a grain on a 3D printed piece of plastic. They kind of have that look there. They gave that look because of the polished aluminum. Um, Personally, part of me would love it if they would have done a special edition that was done properly in a silver finish. I mean, that's something that you can do yourself if you really want to. It depends on your preference. It's your collectible. You do what you want with it. But there's a lot of things that you can do to kind of touch it up. The gun, I'm definitely going to do something with it. I don't know what, as far as like what coloring I might do to it. But I definitely want to add a little something to it to add a little bit more flavor. I do like that they threw in the time circuits. Um, Even with my glasses, let me see if I can make it out. Better off without. That shows the 3 departure times. We have October 21st, 2015, November 12th, 1955. Now, actually, November 12th, 1955, they have the wrong dates, or the wrong time. It shows up, if I'm reading this, like 6:30, which is wrong because Marty left at November 12th, 1955 at 12:04 p.m. The top one, the one that's red, I really can't make it out right now. It's October 26th, 1985. It looks like 9:08 or something like that. But all in all, I mean, he's not bad. He definitely could have been a lot worse. His body is pretty decent. I mean, he's got a bit of a backpack due to these gull wing doors. But I mean, even if you close them, I mean, it's not that much. It's not like Prime's backpack that you see in a lot of different iterations of him. Um, Another thing I would have liked is his front shins, his legs. You got like little mini flux capacitors in detail here. Um, Again, Toy Hacks, if you're watching this, please give us some upgrades on here. I mean, if you're good at painting models, you're good at painting details. I mean, this is something you could obviously do yourself, but I wouldn't mind seeing some decals to maybe improve, add a little bit more color, because that just looks pretty flat right there. Um, we're gonna go back to the box, and in his robot mode, it's still very flat, but you can see the details I'm referring to on the legs right there. It's got little flux capacitors for kneecaps right there. I mean, all in all, it's pretty good. Um, his eyes, I mean, they do pop out blue, and the flux capacitor is blue. It's not exactly screen accurate, mind you, but I mean, this isn't exactly a screen accurate Autobot. Now, because he's got this little hinge right here, you can actually do some pretty unique posing here. So, I mean, he's got some moves here. He's got some posability. Um, he's got some. He's got some front movement right here. You can kind of pretend that he's sitting down somewhere. You know. As far as, I mean, all in all, on a scale of 1 to 10, as far as Transformers, because I was a Transformer collector, um, I would say he's definitely about, I'd say 8.5 out of 10. I mean, they definitely are hitting the nostalgia mark right here, guys, with him. Um, I'm just really thrown off by the size between him and Ectotron. I mean, it's like you're the older brother and he's the little punk kid who wants to hang out with you. Um, he's your bratty little brother, but he's right there. He's keeping up with you. Personally, I would love to see. I know it's not going to happen, but I would love to see maybe a little crossover between these two. You know, but we'll see what happens. I mean, Hasbro is doing a Target exclusive with an updated version of Ectotron. I'm still on the fence about that right now. Um, that one's he's gonna have more of a Optimus Prime face cover. There's gonna be some subtle differences, a slight little paint scheme. Basically, it's like a repaint reissue, but we'll see what happens. It's supposed to be Ectotron Afterlife Edition. We'll see if they do a parallel comic book IDW when the movie actually is released. whenever that will be. I'm in no rush. It's fantastic news. In fact, it was released yesterday in social media that Jason Reitman has finished editing Ghostbusters Afterlife, so that's going to be coming out in June. Who knows? It all depends on what happens with movie theaters and everything else. There's a lot of craziness going on with movies right now. I think was it Warner Brothers, since they're in HBO or the same thing, they have announced that they will be releasing movies both on HBO Max and in movie theaters for those parts of the world that have movie theaters that are open. They're going to be releasing them so that they'll be available on HBO Max for 1 month, and then afterwards it would just be in the theaters until then is rotated back. So that's pretty interesting. If I'm wrong with those details, please comment in the section below, and I'll definitely mention that and correct myself on the next video. But all in all, he's pretty good. Now, there's one more aspect to this unbox video. Thanks to Amazon Prime Day, I actually jumped on this. I got this for $22. This is the Blu-ray of the 35th anniversary edition of Back to the Future, the entire trilogy. Now, I already have a couple copies of Back to the Future 1, 2, and 3. This one I got because it has extra features on here. We have the Hollywood Museum Goes Back to the Future. Join co-writer and producer Bob Gale on an intimate tour of an exhaustive exhibit of film props and memorabilia from Back to the Future. Back to the Future, the musical, behind the scenes. Now, those that don't know, over in the UK, they actually had a run, and they're going to be continuing that run, pandemic allowing, of an adaptation of Back to the Future as a musical. And it's been getting tons of rave reviews, in fact. So we'll see what happens. We'll see if it comes over to the States here. That would be great once things start to get back to normal. In regards to that, behind the scenes of the sequel, get a sneak peek at the new musical, including Q&A with the cast and creative team, plus 2 new recordings. Also, there's another feature which is called An Alternative Future, Lost Audition Tapes. Get a glimpse of Back to the Future that could have been, with rare footage featuring now famous celebrities. There's been a lot of talk because a lot of people know Eric Stoltz was supposed to be Marty McFly, and he was for most of the movie, and then the producers, everyone behind the movie didn't feel that he was the right fit, and then they reached out to Michael J. Fox, and Michael J. Fox was doing double duty. He was filming during the daytime Family Ties, which was his TV series back in the 80s, and then he would fly over to California to Universal so they could film Back to the Future. That's why a lot of the movie, a lot of the parts, you'll see a lot of it takes place at night because he was doing double duty. There are a lot of scenes that happen during the day, but that had to rotate around his schedule. So he was burning the candle at both ends, which is pretty amazing. But there were people like, trying to think, Ben Stiller auditions. There's a lot of people who auditioned for roles in Back to the Future that didn't get them. Of course, the rest of it is, another one is, could you survive the movies Back to the Future? Explore the magic and science of Back to the Future and find out which laws of physics were actually violated in the special episode of the popular YouTube series. So it looks like that's part of a YouTube series that they included on here. Other special features they have on here: Tales from the Future, 6-part documentary, The Physics of Back to the Future, deleted scenes, Michael J. Fox Q&A, 8 archival featurettes, which should be featurettes that were previously released on past editions. We have behind the scenes footage, music videos, audio commentaries, Back to the Future: The Ride, and also Doc Brown Saves the World short film. Also included on here, and this in itself is worth it, Out of Time, Restoring the DeLorean. Those who don't know what that is, out of the original Back to the Future, the original DeLoreans from the trilogy, one of them was surviving. One of them that survived is one that was dilapidated. It was sitting on the lot, Universal Studios, at least as far as I understand. I could be wrong, guys. Don't quote me. But it sat on the lot, unprotected from the elements, weather, rain, people passing by, touching it when they shouldn't, certain parts being stolen by very intense fans, things of that nature. The DeLorean suffered greatly, falling, I mean, just completely rusted apart, dilapidated. I mean, imagine you had this perfect vehicle, and 30 years later, due to rain and elements, it's completely falling apart. It's a former shell of what it truly was. And that's what happens. They got a team of avid fans who were known for recreating their own DeLoreans into a Back to the Future DeLorean, and they were basically gathered by Bob Gale to go ahead and restore the DeLorean. So they were given unlimited access to the original documents used to build the original DeLorean. Information, I mean, they refabricated parts. Some parts could not be found, so they refabricated them. They restored the DeLorean to perfect working order, and I believe now it's sitting in the Peterson Museum, fully contained and preserved for all of time. There are a few other DeLoreans. There's one, I think the DeLorean from Back to the Future 3, there is a version of it. One of the stunt cars is in private ownership. But I mean, the Out of Time Restoring the DeLorean documentary itself, I mean, it's an amazing, it shows you the work that they went through. It's nice and detailed. I mean, it's a movie unto itself. You could find it, you can rent it on like Amazon.com. You can buy the movie itself. I think proceeds, I think for a short time they were going towards charity. I'm not too sure about that. But there's so many more features on here, and also there's a digital code included on here, so I have the digital copy to go along with this. The featurettes will not be included on that, but let's open it up. I think I talked enough, right guys? So we're going to open this up. And it's got a very nice kind of metallic finish. This is not metallic. This is not a steel book. This is just simply a nice little book right there. Speaking of book, we kind of have a mini version of the visual history, kind of the look of the visual history in a nice little book here. It's kind of a version of that. Here's the digital copy, which I will be saving for myself. I will not be giving that away. Sorry, guys. You understand. So we have. I want to get the visual history of Back to the Future. But I mean, I like that they made this look like a little binded book. So when we open this up, we of course have the first disc is all your bonus features. Okay. Now, one thing I was a little disappointed they didn't have in the 35th anniversary, and I mean they could have raised the price a little more. The animated series. Now, the animated series you can get that on Amazon between I think $19 and $21. There is a 30th anniversary version which has the animated series included, but it doesn't have all these features on here. So that's why I went with this. I will be getting the animated series at one point in case you weren't sure. They did a limited run, I think it was 1 or 2 seasons, of Back to the Future, the animated series, which was hosted by Christopher Lloyd. He would do a live skit of him as Doc Brown, and then they would have someone else voicing Doc for the animated cartoon portions. But that ran for about 2 seasons on CBS on Saturday mornings. It was actually a pretty cool cartoon. It was a continuation where Doc, Clara, and their sons, Jules and Vern, were living in Hill Valley in the present. And Marty was, I think, finishing up high school or going to college. He had the hoverboard. They actually had a DeLorean. They had another DeLorean. But this DeLorean could convert not only to hover mode, but it could expand so the entire family could fit in. Instead of just having 2 seats, it could have tons of seats. They also had the train. And also, Einstein had a special gauntlet or glove that fit on his paw so he could actually pull a whistle and pilot the train. It was actually pretty cool. And they even had it in the cartoon where sometimes the DeLorean would go inside the train in the exterior part of the locomotive where the exhaust systems were. that would actually open up like a garage and the DeLorean would go inside. I mean, they had some pretty insane adventures, and of course, they went different parts in time. They would either run into relatives or descendants of Biff, Marty's family, or even Doc's clan. So I mean, it was pretty interesting. I love the art in here. Um, Taking the screen captures in here. It shows you the bonus features of each of the movies, part 1, part 2, and part 3. I mean, it's got everything in here, guys. This is just, I really can't wait to pop this in and just, I mean, rewatch. I mean, this is the trilogy I can watch over and over again, just like Star Wars. So that's a nice little. I can't wait to go through all the extras to see what's, because I'm sure there's a lot more extras that are not included in, that aren't listed on the outside. This is the Blu-ray version. There is a 4K version, but one, I don't have a 4K TV. Two, I don't have a 4K Blu-ray to properly display that. So that's why I got the Blu-ray version and the digital copy. Now we'll see if there's, they say that there's a lot of subtle differences, that this is newly remastered, so your colors are more brighter. Even the darker scenes are a little bit more brighter. You can see things more clearly. So I'll be doing a review to see how much of a difference is this, and how much on a scale of 1 to 10 is this an improvement from the previous versions. So we'll be going over that, because I actually had the Steelbook of Back to the Future. So this will be very interesting, guys. So that's our Back to the Future video. That's our little unbox between the movie, the nice little Bumblebee-sized Transformer, and also the comics and the newspaper, guys. Thank you for sticking out for this very long video. I do apologize. I know I talk a little too much sometimes. And I just, as always, I thank you guys for checking out our video, checking out our channel. If you like this video, if you're new to the channel, hit that subscribe button and hit that bell for notifications to follow us up on more videos. Now, very soon, we will be doing another video, which is going to be me painting and reconstructing the Ben Kent pack. So that's going to be very exciting, and I'm hoping to have some more things coming through the chain. So until next time, this is Dave from Dave's Dimension saying keep on busting, and I'll catch you on the flip side.